This is Metal Jesus, and I'm recording my very first audio commentary on one of my videos. This is going to be the $5 Bad Game Challenge that I released back in November of 2015, and it's a fairly popular one. But the reason why I chose this one is because the making of this video, well, it started off in a very different place, and we ended up having it go to a much better place, I think, in the end, and it was certainly a lot more popular than I ever expected. So if you're interested in kind of how my videos get made and sort of the twists and turns that they go through, this is going to be a good one. So let's get started with Josh. And there's Josh. One of my favorite intros of all time. He actually originally had a bit of a rant as to why he was actually late. We didn't make that up. And eventually it was this, it was actually this longer sort of explanation as to why he was late. And I just thought, you know what, let's just trim that down to him freaking out. And here we get a shot of Wood. Wood is such a funny guy because he is so deadpan and so random. And there's a lot of things in this video where I didn't realize how weird, wonderfully weird and random he was until I was actually editing it. Now, to start off with, this video actually was Wood and I wanting to come together to do a game questing video for my channel, essentially. And so the original version of this was called Game Questing with Wood. And I kind of always wanted to go do some game hunting with him, and I know the Seattle area pretty well, and so it was just sort of a natural to bring Wood along. And then Wood is really good friends with Josh. They met, I believe, at the Portland Retro Gaming Expo and became really good friends. And so when the day came to try to get this all together, we decided to reach out to TheBigJB and bring him in. I knew Josh was going to be great on camera because he's not shy, and he would bring an interesting perspective. And then Wood's girlfriend, Tiffany, was going to handle all the camera work for us. And that was a bit of a wild card. I wasn't exactly sure how she was going to do with that, but I gave her some general instructions on how to frame people and kind of where to follow people and stuff like that, things to look out for, and she did a great job. But more specifically, I didn't realize until the end of this video that one of the things I really liked about Tiffany was that she is sort of the voice of reason. She's the audience, because here are three hardcore game collectors, or especially two. Josh isn't necessarily hardcore, but Wood and I are pretty hardcore, and we're kind of, from the outside looking in, we're sort of over the top. We're like, you know, obsessed with video games. We talk about video games all the time. And Tiffany was actually pretty funny because she was this person who was, she's a casual gamer, but she's not hardcore. And so I love the fact that when we shot the green screen stuff, that she brought that sort of perspective of like, why are you guys doing this? Why don't you focus on other things? And she just made it so much more interesting to further the narrative. Now, speaking of narrative, originally I didn't have any plan for this video. You know, essentially my thinking was that we would just go out game hunting and see what happens. But I've done videos like that similar in the past, and what they turn out to be is that it's just a sort of, it's a random sequence of events that are kind of interesting. You sometimes get lucky, but at the end of the day, there's not a story there to be told. And so as the day was approaching for this, in my mind, I was like, like, we need a goal. We need something to focus on specifically for the video, so that I have this kind of overarching narrative to go through it. I mean, to give an example here, the Game Chasers do this brilliantly. If you watch their videos and sort of look at the structure of them, sometimes their videos aren't even necessarily about game hunting. It'll be about sort of an experience at a game store, or I think they did an entire episode where it was all about just ghosts or aliens and things like that. And the reason why they do that, I believe, is because that gives the episode focus. And so for this one, as the day approached, I was like, you know what, we need something to focus on here. And so that's why I came up with the $5 bad game challenge. It was cheap to do, and you know, in the middle of all this, we were able to sort of look for the worst game, and it turned out really well. It was actually better than I expected. It was funny how we didn't really know what we're going to end up doing when we first started this, and so as the day went on, we started cheating, which I certainly needed to do because I don't walk around with a list of bad games in my pocket, and so in order to win, I needed to start hopping on my phone, and it just ended up being kind of funny how we all ended up cheating and trying to screw each other over. It was pretty hilarious. Now, one of the criticisms of this video, I think for people who are not used to my channel, especially, is that they were kind of surprised to see that sort of reality TV style, green screen interview stuff, and the reality of that is that is used as a storytelling mechanism to get into people's heads, and so essentially it's designed to say, hey, when Metal Jesus was doing this, what were you thinking? Hey, when you saw this game, what were you thinking? Because that isn't captured while we're there. While we're there in the store, it's kind of chaos, and you don't really know what a person's thinking or what their goal is. And so for this video, we shot the entire thing, and even when I was in the car with Wood heading back to the house afterwards, I was like, dude, I don't think we have a video here. And I'm just not feeling, you know, we may have a 10-minute sort of highlights video, but I feel like, man, we just don't have the actual video. And it was on the way back home that I started thinking about, okay, let's do the green screen, let's do the interviews, let's build up the narrative of this and get into people's heads as the day was unfolding. And that's exactly what that's used for. And I know some people aren't really crazy about it because maybe it feels a little too polished. I will tell you that all of that stuff was just completely off the cuff. Essentially what it is it's a person in front of a green screen, and the rest of the people behind is just sort of asking questions and kind of leading questions too. Like, you know, wasn't it annoying when Josh did this, or what were you thinking when that happens? And so from a editing standpoint, it's super helpful because you're essentially allowed to jump around the day and sort of make sense of all the chaos. One of the things that we ran into during this day was that while it was a $5 bad game challenge, we were also legitimately game hunting, and in each one of these stores, we were going around, and yes, we're looking for that bad game, but we're looking for good games too. And it's funny to me because I was the one who pretty much bought most of the stuff. It could be because I'm a fairly big collector and I have a lot of different consoles and systems to collect for, and so I can pretty much always find something. And so but we're running into a situation here in the video where Wood and Josh a little bit are kind of haggling at Pink Gorilla and one of their employees, trying to get sort of this best deal. And it's a bit tricky for me, to be honest, because I am friends with the people who run and own these stores, and they don't have to let us film in there. This is a courtesy that they provide. And you know, not to slam on these guys too hard, but it's like, you know, when they go in there, they're trying to negotiate with a reseller, with a retail store, and these retail stores have bills to pay. They have employees. They have this store, in particular, right here, is in the University District. That is not a cheap part of Seattle. I'm sure their lease is quite expensive, and so they have a lot of overhead, and they charge, you know, what things are worth and what things are able to pay. But so Josh and Wood were, you know, they just were looking for a great deal. And it was important for me to clarify that I felt that they were a little bit cheap, trying to get anything off, you know, the price, especially when you are only buying one game. Pretty much most people will tell you that if you're looking for some sort of deal on video games in retail stores, you need to start at a place where maybe you're buying 2 games, 3 games, maybe in a really expensive game. An $8 game, what's the motivation for for giving you some money off on that. So I don't know. It was just, again, I don't want to bag on Wood too much. This is his thing. He tries to get the best deal possible. And believe me, so do I. But when you're in a retail store, you need to kind of pay what they're asking unless you have, like I said, a stack. And so it was important for me to kind of stick up for them a little bit because they definitely help me out when I go game hunting or I'm looking for stuff. And honestly, I love the retro stores in the Seattle area. They're some of the best probably in the nation. And Pink Gorilla here like has really high quality games. Like they don't sell stuff with ripped labels or that are dirty or anything. They test them. They're guaranteed. You can bring them back if they don't work. So anyways, that's my little rant about how cheap Wood was. Now, I should clarify though that Josh eventually ended up going back and buying the game that he wanted. Now we didn't show that in the video, but all day long after this, he hemmed and hawed about getting that little discount. And then, man, to his credit, he did go back and he did buy the game that he actually wanted, which I thought was pretty cool. One of the challenges of editing a video like this is how do you show rows and rows of video games without boring your audience? Because to be quite honest, that's hard to do. Like, nobody really wants to see just rows and rows of video games. At least I don't. You kind of get burned out on it. So this was an opportunity to do some split screen and things like that. Focus on us looking at the games as opposed to just the games themselves. After that, we head to Al's Music, and Al's Music is a really interesting place. It's kind of like a pawn shop where it has a lot of video games, but it also sells a lot of CDs, vinyl records, turntables, movies. They have a whole porn section in there. It's an interesting place. I like it, actually. It's pretty cool, but it's pretty hit and miss, too. They do have a pretty amazing display of rare stuff that they've just kind of collected over the years, and they price it to not sell, in my opinion. And I think they do that because they like that display case. It brings people in. Oh yeah, there's a vinyl record from Adrian Smith and Project. That's the guitarist for Iron Maiden that put out an album that almost nobody bought. So I was kind of excited to see that. And then Dokken. I do love my 80s hair metal, and it was cool to get that album. And then here's where Josh is like, he's going to go back and buy it. So good on you, buddy. You'll notice here, too, that the camera changed a little bit. That's because my camera ran out of batteries, and so we switched over to Wood's camera. And then now we are back in the game room, and Wood is acting weird. It's funny because I'm talking, and I'm not really paying attention to Wood right here until I edited the video, and I was like, oh, my God, he's so random and funny. He's so hilarious. You know, one of the things about these kind of videos is that when I'm on camera, my thought process is the conversation we're having, but I'm also kind of thinking about from a director standpoint and a producer standpoint, like, okay, are we getting the information that we need? Are we getting the material that I'm going to need to edit it? And so sometimes little things like this will happen, and I'm oblivious because I'm trying to get out what needs to be said. So. And here at the end, it was pretty interesting because we needed to have a winner. We needed to wrap up our $5 bad game challenge. And this, if you can't tell already, was completely off the cuff, as most of my videos are. Nothing is scripted, nothing is planned. And we did not know what each other had. And it was pretty fun to kind of just go with it. And I just assumed that it would turn out really, you know, if at the very least it'd be funny. Now, what I didn't expect was our method of deciding what was the worst game probably could have been planned out a little better. I mean, we all pretty much agreed, but I could have done looking back, I think what I would have done is had us play the games, because that would have been a kind of cool little wrap up. The thing about a video like this, though, is that when we get back to the game room and the game hunt is over, I don't want to tack on another 20 minutes of us playing the game. That's a personal preference. I suspect people would drop off and not watch that. And so, but I do feel like in the comments of this video certainly suggested that people felt a little ripped off that we did this decision kind of willy-nilly and off the cuff without sort of playing the games. We plan to do another one of these fairly soon, actually, and that is one of the things I'm going to do, is that when we come back to the game room, we will play the game and we will decide what is the actual worst game. And I probably, in order to kind of keep that along, I will edit that heavily just to show, you know, maybe like a 5-minute sort of montage or jump cuts of us playing 3 games. Because like I said, that could easily turn into 20 minutes, and tacked on to an already 15-20 minute video, no one's going to watch 40 minutes of that. So anyways, that's just some of the thought process that I go through. But at the end of the day, I do love the banter back and forth here. Some of the choices I thought were pretty funny. I'm tempted next time to make a rule where it can't be a Wii game, because I feel like that is almost too easy to choose a really bad Wii game, because there's so many of them. And so I'm thinking of maybe making that a stipulation. Also, too, in the comments for this video, a lot of people are like, well, how come you don't do a $5 good game challenge? And that is a totally valid thing to ask for. Really interesting, actually. I think you could argue that bad game challenge gets more views and curiosity than good game. Although, I don't know, it's hard to say. I definitely like to play with both ideas. Maybe do both in the same video. You know, some of those suggestions here. But at the end of this video, it was really fun to just kind of torture each other a little bit about these games that we bought. You know, it's funny because after we shot this footage and before these guys had seen it, Tiffany actually was a little bit concerned that she came across as bitchy or kind of annoyed with us, because in the end, I don't think she was nearly as annoyed as perhaps that she came across as. But editing the video, man, I just kept going back and forth with her footage because she just gave me gold. I mean, she's just that, again, that voice of the audience going, you guys are idiots, you know, which I thought was really funny because we kind of are, you know, but that's the fun of it, you know, that's the fun of going out, you know, buying bad video games. I don't know. I just love that sort of stuff. I definitely did not expect to win this challenge though, but I was very happy to have done so. And so, like I mentioned, that we are going to be doing another one of these. This video did extremely well. People seem to like it quite a bit. And I had a ton of fun editing these. These are the kind of videos, when you're a video editor like me, that are the most challenging and also the most fun to do. You know, I had probably an hour and a half of footage here. And one of the really fun things for me is to take all of that footage and edit it down to something that is relatively entertaining, I hope, but also quick paced, kind of highlights, has a lot of juicy little elements to it. And so they're a lot of fun to do, a lot of work. Usually these are the longest videos to edit as well. I can spend anywhere from 20 to 40 plus hours. Also, for these kind of videos, I need to have my wife involved in it because it's tough to take an hour and a half of footage and whittle that down and say, okay, does this make sense? And be objective about it. So I always end up doing a first take of this and showing my wife and going, okay, does this make sense, or is it too long, or is it too short? Do you understand what's happening? And so that's typically how my process of these work. So anyways, I want to thank Wood and also Josh, the Big JB, for coming on this episode and helping it with me. And also Tiffany, she was a fantastic addition to this. And we're going to bring all these guys back probably in a couple weeks here when Josh gets some free time and shoot another one and probably go to a different location and things like that. So I hope you guys enjoyed this first audio commentary. It gives you a bit of a insight into my thought process and the making of this video. And as always, I want to thank my Patreon contributors who essentially are allowing me to do this. I really appreciate it, guys. Take care.
Everybody cheated. They're all dirty little cheaters.